For the last prepping data of 2023, we're looking back at all previous prepping datas. We're up to 255 challenges. Thank you to everyone who has taken part and supported us through this journey. So let's take a look at them. So we've just inputted this CSV where we've got the years, we've got what level those challenges are at, what week they came out, the themes, a little bit of what to watch out for comes from a real example. They're kind of just things that help me when I'm teaching. The kind of comes from a real example if I'm trying to give a more realistic use case of kind of like maybe a data structure that has been encountered. So that's just why that little flag's there. But we're interested in this themes column, so we're going to go ahead and split these out. I tried with an automatic split, it didn't work for my version of Tableau Prep, so we go with a custom split using the comma and splitting off all the fields. So if I hit that split button, then I come to the next step and that's already been done for me. So I think there are about 10 different splits that happen here of the different techniques that are used in each challenge. So then we'll pivot these down so that we have them all in one field. And then when we do that, once we've pivoted, then we see that we've got quite a lot of blank empties here. So we'll just filter those out. So that's if a challenge just doesn't have that many techniques in it. So we will filter all those out. So that's what we've done at that stage. And then comes the grouping step. So first of all, what I tried to do is I tried to do, it's telling me that I've grouped the values by manual selection, but first of all what I tried was the spelling, because I thought if I'm trying to group together things like aggregate and aggregates, you can see how many different ways that I spell aggregate, a little bit wrong, a few too many G's there, but I thought this would be the best way to sort of go and pick those things up. I also allowed all these different types of join clauses to become one, because my idea is that I'll then combine it with the non-equal join clause as well, which is in this data set. Lots of inconsistencies with how I went about naming things. Percent of total, you can see that just gets rid of some of the capitals and non-capitals. So lots of different things going on here. I made sure it was on kind of like the least sensitive option there, so that it didn't group too many things together that I didn't want it to group together. For example, it kept trying to group together pivot rows to columns and pivot columns to rows as one, which obviously there's a slight difference between those two techniques that I might want to split those out. So a lot of trial and error, a lot of checking what's within my groups, deselecting things if I didn't want them to be grouped together, or manually grouping things together if I did want that to happen. And then that's the same sort of process that's happening here, just in two different steps. So I end up with 73 unique values, but you don't need to have exactly the same results as what is in the solution as what is in the output. It was just a case of trying to make it a little bit more succinct. It's something that I might play around with in future a little bit more, because some of them maybe, for example, do we really need one that tells us that we're going to use the case function? Maybe not necessarily. Maybe that could be grouped into something like the logical calculations or something like that. So this is where we've got to. Hopefully you've done something similar and that is kind of making sense to you. It doesn't need to be an exact match in this instance. So now we'll go ahead and we're going to count all those different themes. So we group by our themes, we group by our level, and we sum up the number of rows. And we just do a little bit of renaming at this point because I realised I was still on themes split, so rename that to be technique, rename the number of rows to be the number of challenges, and then we're ready to pivot. So popping the level into our column headers, popping the sum of the number of challenges into the values for that field. Now I realised that I could have not done the aggregate and gone straight into the pivot, potentially, because obviously we're aggregating as we're doing that pivot. That certainly could have saved me a few steps there in this workflow, but personally, when I'm building a workflow like this, I almost want to do it a bit more step by step, just whilst I'm familiarising myself with the data. But certainly that's something that if I was trying to go back and optimise this workflow, I would go and get rid of the aggregate step and let this step itself do the aggregating. And then finally, we just want to work out the priority. So to do that, we need to know the total. So our total here is just adding together each of these 4 fields, and we need to wrap that in a ZN, each of those fields, because if we look, for example, at this top row here, then we see that we've got a null value in the 3 and 1, and so if I added together these 4 fields at the moment, that would just come out as a null, because kind of null takes the priority there. So I need to make sure that null is being counted as a 0 in each of these instances. And then I just do a simple ranking on that total field in ascending order, so that the ones that have fewer challenges have the lower rank number. So they're the ones we need to kind of focus on building more challenges for. And I've chosen to do a dense rank rather than an ordinary rank, just so that it isn't going 1 and then 24, for example. I just think that makes a bit more sense to what I'm trying to do there. So yeah, and then we output the data. So hopefully this data set is going to be useful for you to play around with, find challenges that you want to tackle from our challenge backlog. And hopefully you enjoyed this challenge just working with that data too. So thanks very much for watching.